So to say that this is kind of like my bucket list dream, once in a lifetime interview, I don't know. Does that sound over the top, Mr. Labrada? But as we have talked about previously, my gosh, I've known you for 25 years. I worked the Labrada booth
Right.
back in the day in my 20s when I was doing fitness modeling, and people are like, "What'd you do there?" I'm like, I stood there and looked pretty and cut up bar sandals because that's what we did. So, but it is just such an honor to have you on my podcast now, 25 years later. And it's just so cool to still see you in the scene and still owning your line, because even back in the day, I would always say, I mean, you could go back to videos when I'm talking about where to buy your supplements. I have said forever, you want to purchase your supplements from an individually owned company, because those individuals that own it, they have their name behind it. And if the product is crap, it's coming back on that individual. And I would always say, Lee Labrada owns Labrada Nutrition. And that was one of my examples, because I knew the quality that went behind your products because it was your name behind it too. So I'm just really pumped up to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Amy. I am delighted to be on the show with you, and yes, we have some history together, so it's kind of cool to come full circle and still be helping people this many years later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with your history, your experience, I mean decades of really seeing it all from, deep into the bodybuilding scene, the variety of diets that were out there at the time, what worked, what didn't work, supplements that came and went and what worked and didn't work. Can you tell me, I want to talk protein because that seems to be one of the most consistent concepts that hasn't changed. We've gone high carb, low carb, you drop your water, you don't drop your water, but protein is always there. So can you kind of go back to your roots, talk to us about how you first started eating, what's changed in your nutrition, and then let's get into the importance of protein.
Sure, sure. So going back all the way to the days when I was a teenager, I got involved in bodybuilding because I wanted to compete in one of the local shows. And I started doing a lot of research. And back then, research came by a lot more difficult than today. Today, you can just jump on the internet and you can find research, sometimes conflicting research, but still there's so much out there now on protein. But back then you really had to rely on what you read in the muscle magazines, like Joe Weider's Muscle and Fitness and Flex, and asking people in the gym, about protein and which one and how much and so forth, so on. But what I learned early on was that it was necessary to get adequate amounts of protein in order to build muscle and to lose fat, which is necessary for bodybuilding competitions. You just have to have a really, really good diet. So my relationship with protein goes all the way back to when I first started out. And of course, back in the day, we thought that basically you would just open up cans of tuna fish and eat those, or eat a half a dozen eggs and stuff. And it's really evolved. I mean, there's so much more known about nutrition nowadays, with the advent of the protein powders, some of which are better. Even I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say some of them are even better than some whole food sources of protein, depending on what you get, obviously.
Mhm.
But everybody knows a lot more about protein nowadays. And so, but what hasn't changed is the importance of protein. Even over the last 40 years, it's such an important macronutrient for not just developing strength and muscle, but also health and metabolic health.
So we can see how important it is when you want to compete. You want to grow your muscles, you want them
Mhm.
into a state of hypertrophy to where you're going to be the most muscular, the most shredded, the leanest, the lowest body fat. But for the average person, they look at that and they go, well, that's not me. So why should I care?
That's right.
And I'm sure, I mean, we can kind of target the women and really the older population. As you age, you start to forget the importance of protein, or your appetite decreases, but it becomes even more important. Can you speak to that and what you've seen?
Oh, absolutely. And listen, let's start by saying I realize that not everybody wants to be a competitive bodybuilder like I was in my younger years, but the importance of protein, even for the average person, it is so important because by nourishing and building muscle, you're also not just building your strength, you're building metabolism, you're building health. As you pointed out, as people get older, okay, protein becomes even more important because protein can let's say mitigate the effects of sarcopenia, which is muscle loss as you get older. No, you don't want that. That's one of the biological markers of aging. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein, and training with resistance training in order to keep that muscle tissue active, keep that muscle tissue healthy as long as you can. Super, super important.
And do you find that it's mostly women that are scared of maybe eating too much protein and bulking up? I put that in air quotes, or
Sure.
lifting too heavy and bulking up, because that's,
Oh, no
I
doubt.
still hear that. And I think to
Yep.
myself, man, are we out of that way of thinking? But
Right, right.
yeah,
And the thing is that women still, conflate, weight gain as in fat weight gain with muscular bulk, that type of a thing. Listen, ladies, muscle's not going to make you bulky. Muscle is going to give you the sexy curves. It's difficult to develop muscle. Any of you that train with weights know that it's difficult to gain muscle. So it's not like you're going to turn into a professional male bodybuilder overnight. That does not happen. But what if I could tell you that by going into the gym a few times a week and increasing the protein in your diet, that you could lose body fat, that your metabolism would get better, so that you're burning more calories at rest, including fat calories. What if I told you that it's going to make the girth on your arms and your legs actually smaller than it is now? Okay, well, you'd say, well, sign me up. Well, yeah, that's what weight training and you using a higher protein intake can do for you.
absolutely. And with the protein intake, like you said earlier, one of the main complaints that I hear from, again, not picking on you ladies, but I'm picking on you ladies because I don't hear this from guys. Guys can eat ongoing ad nauseum throughout the day, but women are like, well, I'm just not that hungry, or I just can't eat that volume of, let's say, real food, like your chicken and the eggs and the steak and all that. They just get too full too fast. And to get in 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass is impossible. So that's really where I think the addition of supplemental protein shakes, I mean, and those came onto the scene. I don't even know what year protein powders started coming onto the scene, but my God, they've come so far since then
They
that
sure
they
have.
are palatable and they don't destroy your gut. And we now have, flavored with stevia. It's some of them
Sure.
plant-based,
Sure.
whey-based. So they've come
Yep.
so far that it's kind of a no-brainer. Why not just supplement with them?
Absolutely. Let's go back to what you brought up earlier. Most ladies having trouble getting all the food down and they don't want to overeat. Hey, I don't want to overeat either because, by association, if you're overeating, you're going to be gaining weight and probably undesirable weight. So it's not about overeating. It's simply about restructuring the way that you eat during the day so that you actually eat smaller meals, but more frequently. So what I like to do is I tell people that I eat 5 times a day, and they go, "How do you eat 5 times a day?" It's like, what do? You just spend all your time at the dining room table? How do you get all the food down? I go, no, 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 just relax. I just do a simple breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then a protein shake or a high protein snack at mid-morning and mid-afternoon. That's 5 meals. So what we got to get used to is eating smaller amounts at each sitting. Okay, but start your meals by building your meals from the protein up, as I say. In other words, start by getting a sufficient amount of protein for how much you weigh. If you weigh 150 pounds, ladies, you should be getting probably about 120 grams, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you split that up over 5 meals, you're really looking at only about 25 grams of protein in a meal. That's about as much as you get in a small can of tuna fish, or a piece of chicken, the size of your palm,
Mhm.
or a small protein shake. It's not that difficult to do. But by doing that, what you're doing is you're feeding your muscle, and then you just add sufficient carbohydrates and fats to provide energy. But you start by building the diet from the protein up, again, as I like to say. So we choose a protein first, and then we add a little bit of complex carbohydrates, low burning carbohydrates, or healthy fats, to provide the energy, and then you just do that throughout the day. Just so you know, I've got an 8-week plan that I'm going to share with the viewers and the listeners later. It's free, and it'll kind of summarize what I'm talking about. It'll give you an idea of how to better put this program together. Now, addressing the second piece that you brought up, which is the protein supplements. Those have been around since like the 1940s and 1950s. But
Okay.
man, back then they were rough. Because even when I started weight training in the 70s, they didn't taste that great. And so protein powder over the years got the reputation of tasting chalky or just
Mhm.
tasting nasty. And man, I wouldn't drink that either. But the drinks that we have nowadays are just so tasty, and they're so easy to get down. And my lady friends that are into keeping their metabolism high, keeping their muscles fed, they know that they have to supplement with a protein powder or a protein shake during the day to meet the required number of grams that their body is going to need.
You have to. I mean, otherwise it's virtually impossible, even with a busy schedule. Even if you have the appetite to get down all that real food, and if you do, I mean, more power to you, but then there's the schedule aspect of who has the time in the day to sometimes sit
Exactly.
down and eat a full meal. Sometimes you're
Exactly.
on the go and you're grabbing something and, you're throwing down your protein via liquid.
Right. And, Amy, let me just address that, because ladies, we're not talking about sitting in the kitchen and cooking all day. That's not what this is about. This is really a pretty simple thing to do. You cook maybe once a week on the weekends. You just cook up a bunch of chicken breasts, and put them in the refrigerator, and then you have that with a little bit of rice or something, a salad and whatnot during the week. You just pull it out, and you can put it into a little lunch bag, take it to work, put it in the refrigerator, pull it out, heat it up whenever you need it. It's super easy. And then again, I would say like a protein shake at mid morning and mid afternoon. Voila, you got your 5 protein feedings.
We need to bring back the meal prep Sundays because I
Right.
think people, I mean, that again, that is from the OGs of biohacking, the bodybuilders. Like,
Yes,
I mean, honestly, and this isn't even a biohack. This is just a how to basically live your life and eat well on a day-to-day basis.
that's
Do
right.
meal prep on Sundays.
That's
And
right.
oh my gosh, I remember that. You lay out the Tupperware, you be
Yep.
measuring, but
Yep.
now you're ready for the week.
Yeah, and I mean, in a couple hours, you really can prepare pretty much all the food that you're going to have during the day for the rest of the week. And then listen, if you're out and about and you don't have access to your lunch box, or you don't have access to a protein shake, you got to know how to order, something on the go that's not heavy and bad for you. Again, I keep coming back to chicken breast, but those are awesome. You can get a chicken breast sandwich, get rid of the bun if you want to do that, have a small salad with it, and you're good to go.
And what's so funny is I've been saying that for years, decades, working with patients, working with clients. And you say it so much that you start to believe that it's common knowledge. Like I shouldn't have to say that again. Everybody knows that. But hearing you say it again, ding ding dings in my head to go, people need to hear this. We have to get back to the basics sometimes and remind people the simple things like meal prepping, like taking, like being prepared when you're out. And okay, hit Chick-fil-A, throw away the bun. I mean, worst case scenario, get a burger, even from one of the worst drive-throughs, and throw away the bun. You're at least getting, maybe it's a Franken protein, but it's a
Right.
protein, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to train your body to eat smaller, more frequent meals during the day rather than just one or two times. How many times, Amy, have you heard, one of your patients say, but I'm not eating anything. I'm only eating one time a day. And you go, that is exactly why you're heavy and you can't get rid of the excess fat because you're eating one time a day. You're training your body to be in a survival mode all the time. So anytime that you eat something, it's going to go crazy and it's going to store it, not knowing next time you're going to feed it.
So, on that note, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting and anyone, both sexes, male or female?
Right. So I think that intermittent fasting is a way for people to structure their daily diet to lower their calories. All of these programs, whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's the diet that I'm talking about, eating every 3 hours, whether it's the plant-based diet, whether it's a carnivore diet, whether it's a ketogenic diet, they at the end of the day, the math has to work out that you're taking in less calories than you're burning. Okay. So in other words, if there's a caloric deficit, you're gonna drop weight. If there's a caloric surplus, you're gonna gain weight. That's just math, regardless of which program it is. So you have to keep that in mind. And what I have found is that the intermittent fasting helps some people. Personally, I think that it's better to have protein every 3 hours, but for some people, the intermittent fasting, it helps them by giving them a window during which they eat.
Mhm.
And so it restricts their calories that way. If you're going to do the intermittent fasting, the first thing you need to get in you during your feeding window is protein. Get some protein in there and then just make sure that you hit your protein requirement in the 8 hours or so that you have allotted for eating.
And I'm fine even with the 8-hour allotment time. I think you can, like you said, if you structure it properly and plan it out, you can get in your 120, 150, whatever grams of protein intake you're trying to hit. But the people that are doing, like you said earlier, an OMAD, one meal a day, you can't possibly, and I don't even think the body can assimilate that much protein in one sitting. If you ate 120 grams at once, aren't you
Right.
going to urinate most of it out?
Well, you're definitely not going to get as much out of it as you want for the purposes of muscle building. Because again, your body can only absorb so much of it at one time. So it's better to split it up.
Yeah, and I agree. Is there a limit? I mean, I've heard both. I've heard, again, back in the day, no more than 30 grams per meal or you'll be wasting it. And then
Mhm.
recently I've heard a study that there was just mentioned by another guest I had on. She was referencing a study done just looking at women, specifically as they were going into perimenopause and menopause, and saying that bookending the protein beginning at end of day, even if it's 40, 50, 60 grams at one sitting, that they are assimilating it. So have you heard anything definitive on that?
I don't know anything definitive about what you're speaking about. The reason that I think one of the reasons that I think that it's good to split it up over the course of the day, because let's face it, it's hard to cram down, something that contains, 60 or 80 grams of protein. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about a steak that big,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard. So you kind of break it up so you can get it down during the day. But I think the important thing is to get the number of grams that are necessary to support the muscle tissue in your body.
Right. I agree. Now, what about when to take in protein as it relates to a workout? There's a lot of a lot I've heard both sides of the story with that too. Do you take it beforehand so you have the amino acids on board as you're breaking it down? Or do you have it ready to go right after your workout and try to work out in a fasted state?
The short answer for me is both. And
Mhm.
so I'll eat something. Every meal that I eat during the day has some protein in it. And so I'll have a meal about an hour and a half before working out. And because I've been eating like this through the day, by the time that I work out in the afternoon, I have, what you mentioned, a pool of amino acids floating around in my bloodstream that are available, to the muscle when you're working out, when you're stimulating it. And
Mhm.
so afterwards, the first thing that your body wants to do after workout is to recover the energy that it expended. So that 30-minute window after a workout is a good time, not just to get some protein, but also to get some carbohydrates, to replenish the glycogen that you burn in the muscle tissue during the course of the workout. So typically right after the workout, what I'll do is I'll have a small amount of carbohydrates, say a banana and a small protein shake, and then I'll wait until I get hungry, another 45 minutes later, and I'll have a regular meal.
Mhm. Okay. So it's nice to have that protein on board one way or
Yep.
another, very close to the workout because you're replenishing then and you're
Right.
allowing those muscles to grow. Okay, so moving into actual training, and again, really, I want my ladies to hear this because the dudes listening to you, they followed you, they get you, they're jiving with the heavy workouts, but we still have some ladies out there that, and I don't know where they get this. Maybe they are looking at female competitors, specifically like the physique and the bodybuilding classes, and go, "That's what I'm going to look like if I lift heavy." Maybe it's even some CrossFit because some of the CrossFit ladies they're getting a little bit big and masculine. But for the most, I mean, you have to be, I want you to speak on this. You would have to be taking boatloads of drugs to look like that. It's not from picking up a heavy weight.
Right. So the important thing to remember is that it's difficult to build muscle, even for a guy, who has some hormonal advantages. Their testosterone is higher, and so forth. They have some natural advantages that way. So it's difficult to build muscle. You really have to work hard at it. So it's not going to be something that's going to creep up on you. You're going to wake up one day and it's like, oh my God, I put 3 inches on my biceps. It's like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But women are scared of that, and I understand, but it's a misconception, and so I would encourage any that are listening and tuning in, to use the weight training because it will stimulate your metabolic furnace, which is the amount of muscle tissue you have. Bottom line is the more muscle tissue you have, the more calories that you're going to burn at rest. Muscle tissue only takes up about a much smaller area of volume, let's say, than an equivalent pound weight of fat. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that 5 pounds of fat may look like this, five
Yeah.
pounds of muscle looks like that.
Yeah.
So, you can actually be putting on muscle and dropping fat, and your arms and your legs may actually look smaller.
Yeah. And the scale may or may not move. I
Right. Now
mean,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's one thing that you have to be really careful with because, here's the thing, if I told you that you could look like, I mean, just amazing, just a knockout in your bathing suit, but when you step on the scale, that scale is going to say 150 pounds. Do you really care what the scale says as long as you look, like I look amazing. I look like, 110 pounds. I look amazing. You
Yeah.
don't care what the scale says.
No.
So keep in mind that muscle is heavier than fat. And so even though it may look like you've gained some weight, if you look in the mirror, your dress sizes are going to be dropping. If you put a tape measure to your arms and your legs, they're going to be getting smaller. That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fat will shift. And I'll tell you, I mean, maybe you can have an actual or give me an actual explanation for this. To this day, I tell the story that I was in full contest prep mode and 6 weeks the scale didn't move. Now, I didn't think it was possible for me to be in prep mode and for me to be putting on the equal amount of muscle that I was with fat, but losing fat, but I use that story so often because eventually my body caught up. And my coach at the time kept saying, is your body changing? I was like, yeah, but I want to see the scale change. He goes, is
Right.
your body changing? Yeah, but I want to see the scale. And I
Right.
got so hung up on the scale. And it's like he had to slap me and go, is your body changing? And
Right.
ultimately, yes, it did change. And the scale did drop. But my God, 6 weeks it didn't drop. That drove
Yeah.
me nuts.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens, and the takeaway is not to get too hung up on the scale, take pictures. I encourage all of the people that we train to take pictures periodically, at least every couple of weeks, so that they can check their progress that way, because again, if you get too caught up in the scale, it's going to mess with your head. And at the end of the day, nobody runs up to you and says, "Hey, you look great. Hey, jump on my scale. I want to see what you weigh." It's
Jump on
like
my
they
scale.
just,
That's so true.
they just look at you.
That's so true. And it's how you're feeling in your clothes. So it's actually your the way that you're carrying yourself too, because you're way more confident because your clothes fit better and all the things. Now, how
That's
heavy would you tell a woman to go? Like I always say, who cares if you get 5 reps? Listen, you pushed yourself. The last thing I want you doing though is doing 20 reps and you're just throwing the weights around.
I think that you have to once you have warmed up, whether you're male or female, you need to exercise with weights to the point where you really can't budge the weight anymore. That's what we call going to positive failure. Meaning, so let's say I'm doing curls, and if you can do 20 curls and you set the weight down, you're still not tired. That's too light.
Yeah.
You need to increase the weight until you can do about 10 or 12 repetitions, where the last couple of repetitions are really hard, or you failed, you just can't do the last one. That's
Mhm.
the appropriate amount of training weight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And just pushing yourself. And how much cardio? Because before you answer that, I am not a cardio fan. Actually, since I've stopped doing cardio, meaning getting on a machine. Where
Right.
I get my cardio is when my heart rate increases during a hot yoga session, when my heart rate increases during deadlifting, or if I throw in a little bit of high intensity interval training. So I tend to tell my ladies to stop being cardio queens because, as we know, they'll just get on that piece of equipment and go, and that's their workout.
Right.
How do you incorporate in cardio for the ladies and for the addicted ladies to
Right.
cardio?
Right. Well, and you're right to say that there are those that are cardio queens, and these are people that are out there and they're doing an hour plus of cardio per day, and sometimes it's really not helping to make the scale budge. Right. We're going back to the scale,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, I approach things a little bit differently. I use the weight training to stimulate and to build the muscle tissue, knowing that that is what is going to increase my metabolism. That is what is going to increase the burning of my body fat, even at rest. Okay, because
Mhm.
muscle is metabolically intensive tissue. The more you have, the more you burn. So I'm going to use the weights to stimulate the muscle. I'm going to eat a diet that is appropriate, getting enough protein, and then adding in enough carbohydrates and fats, the other two macronutrients for energy. Okay. But I'm not going to go into a positive caloric balance where I have excess calories, right?
Right.
Okay. And then what I'm going to use cardio for is for my heart. I use it for cardiovascular health. I don't use it for weight loss. If you want to do some cardio, add the cardio. You can do it after your weight training workout, but you have to become weight training centric. If
Yeah.
you want to build your metabolism, you're not going to get that metabolism building effect from cardio.
From cardio. Exactly. This is why I ask questions of the experts, because coming out of my mouth all the time just gets old. So it very much helps everyone to hear it from someone else who's been there, done that, and knows what they're
Well,
talking about.
you have also, so I'm probably singing to the choir.
Well, thank you. Thank you. But no, I love hearing it from you. I really do. So I mentioned in the beginning that I've always touted the importance of buying supplements from a reputable company, specifically from someone that's owned their company for years, decades. So what I have to ask, what is your mission now with Lean Body, with Labrada Nutrition? What's next? What's your mission?
So my mission, my personal mission and the mission of the company is to empower people with the nutritional products and the knowledge that they need to get into the best shape of their life and stay healthy for life. So that is it in a nutshell. I've been doing this for over 25 years. I still come to work every day. I'm in all the details, and I want to make sure that we have the very best product out there. And I'm gonna brag a little bit about one of our flagship products for a second, Amy, which is the
Absolutely.
Lean Body ready to drink protein shakes. 40 grams of protein, zero sugar, tastes like melted ice cream. It was just named Forbes Health Best Protein Shake of the Year. And so we're just really proud of that because we're enabling and empowering people to get into the best shape of their life with these products.
And, I mean, that just goes back to that's why you purchase from you. That's why you purchase from companies that have that mission. And there's so few. There's so few. I mean, as a fellow supplement company owner now, following in your footsteps, I get it. I get wanting to produce something that actually makes a difference. And you hear the testimonials from people that love your product and that recommend it. And that's what it's about. And that's where the audience can be certain of getting high quality because again, it's your heart behind it. It's your desire, it's your mission.
It certainly is. And, I got into this in 1997, and I had just retired as a professional bodybuilder. And I realized that there was a lot of things happening in the supplement industry that, let's say that consumers were being deceived and not getting what they paid for. And so I made it one of my personal missions to have the highest quality products. And I started actually lab testing, third-party lab testing our products 25 years ago. We have lab tests on every product we've ever produced. We started doing that 25 years ago before the Food and Drug Administration required supplement companies to do that.
Yeah.
And it was expensive, but it was something that I wanted to have so that I could assure my customers that they were getting what they paid for. I was a nightmare to the co-packers, the manufacturers. They knew better than to send Labrada a shipment of supplements that did not meet label claim because they would get it right back. You know,
Uh-huh.
and so I just wanted to make sure that my customers got what they paid for. We always used to say if it's on the label, it's in the bottle. And
Mhm.
that's why we did things that way.
Yep. I love it. I love it. That just shows integrity as well.
Thank you.
And so for the audience listening, you're actually offering lean body samples so they can try that out, which
We
is
are.
phenomenal. All
We
they have
are.
to do is pay shipping, which that's
Well, yeah,
nothing.
it's really it's kind of I'm excited about it because I think more people are going to be able to try it for themselves. But if you go to leanbody.com/free shakes, you can get 3 free lean body shakes, an 8-week program for fat loss, a protein cookbook, and a $5 coupon on your first purchase of Lean Body. And all you pay is a small shipping charge.
Very nice. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Lee. That's awesome. I mean, that's very generous of you. So thank you. I
Oh, you're
appreciate it.
welcome. My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this vital topic. It seems, like everyday talk to us and just another day in the life, but this is important information that, like I said earlier, we have to repeat. We have to get it out there because these simple premises help people so tremendously with their health. So
Amy,
thank you once again.
thank you so much for having me on board. And if I can just leave our viewers and our listeners with a couple of parting comments, and it would be this: start today. If you are not already using resistance training, start today. So many times that I hear people, men and women both, say, you know, I'm gonna get into the gym, Lee. I'm gonna get a gym membership. I'm gonna start lifting weights, but first I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. No, 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 no. No, use the gym to lose the 10 pounds. Okay. Go today, get exercise today, move your blood around. It's vital for your health. It's vital for your metabolism. And again, I'm preaching that resistance training is the best way to do that. That's one. And then number two, pay attention to your protein. Get 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight and eat small, frequent meals throughout the day in order to do that. So just wanted to say that. And I just wanted to encourage everybody. The wonderful thing about exercising is that you are going to be a better version of yourself for it. So no matter where you're at in life, no matter how old you are or how out of shape, you know, you can and will improve if you work at it.
The mic drop moment right there. Well said, well summarized.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Amie.
Lee.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.